I'm telling you this story because I need someone else to know what's really out there. Not the version the newspapers printed. Not the sanitized report the Park Service put out. The real story. The one that still wakes me up at 3 a.m. with my sheets soaked through. My name is Marcus Webb, and 3 months ago, I went hunting in the Bitterroot Range with my best friend, Danny Ortega. Only one of us came back. We'd been planning that trip since April. Danny and I had hunted together for 15 years. Ever since, we were both green kids who couldn't tell a buck scrape from a bear mark. We'd worked our way through every season together. Deer, elk, even a mountain goat hunt up in Montana that nearly killed us both from exhaustion alone. But we always came back. We always had each other's backs. This was supposed to be our last big hunt before Danny's wedding in December. His fiancée Sarah had made him promise to hang up the rifle after they tied the knot. No more week-long expeditions into the backcountry. No more sleeping in tents when the temperature dropped below freezing. I understood. Life moves on. But we wanted one final trip. One last hunt in the high country before everything changed. We chose a remote section of the Bitterroot Wilderness, about 40 miles southwest of Missoula, the kind of place you don't stumble into by accident. You have to want to be there. The terrain is brutal, thick lodgepole pine forests that give way to alpine meadows, then rocky ridgelines that will snap your ankle if you're not careful. Grizzly country, real wilderness. We planned for elk, late October, right in the rut. The bulls would be vocal, distracted, easier to locate. We had our tags, our gear meticulously organised, and a solid 5-day window before the weather was supposed to turn. Everything checked out. I remember the drive up, Danny's old Ford, grinding up those Forest Service roads, kicking up dust that hung in the October air like fog. The aspens were already bare, skeletal against the dark green of the conifers. There was this smell, wood smoke from distant cabins mixing with that sharp, clean scent of high-altitude air. Danny had his country music playing too loud, singing off-key like he always did. I gave him hell about it, told him he'd scare every elk in a 10-mile radius. He just laughed, said, "Mark, my voice is part of my charm. Sarah thinks I sound like Chris Stapleton." "Sarah's a liar," I shot back. We were happy, God, we were happy. We parked at the trailhead around noon on a Wednesday. The place was deserted. Exactly what we wanted. Most hunters stick closer to the roads, but Danny and I like to earn our hunts. We planned to hike about 8 miles in, set up a base camp near a drainage we'd scouted on satellite maps, then hunt the ridges and meadows above it. The hike-in was perfect, cool, maybe 45 degrees, with high clouds that filtered the sunlight into something soft and golden. We moved at a steady pace, our packs loaded with everything we'd need, tents, sleeping bags rated to 0. A week's worth of freeze-dried meals, water filters, first aid, rope, knives, game bags, and of course our rifles. I carried my .30-06, a Remington 700 I'd had for a decade. Danny had his grandfather's Winchester Model 70 in 300 Win Mag. That rifle meant everything to him. His grandfather had taken it all over the Rockies, and Danny treated it like a family heirloom. We talked the whole way in. Stupid stuff, mostly. Danny's bachelor party, which his brothers were planning and which terrified him. My sister's divorce, which was getting ugly. Work stress, bills, the kind of ordinary problems that felt important then. The kind I'd give anything to worry about now. By late afternoon, we reached our camp spot. A small clearing near a creek, sheltered by a stand of old-growth fir. The ground was carpeted with pine needles, soft and dry. We could hear the water moving over rocks, a sound that would help mask our presence from any nearby game. It was perfect. We set up our tents, gathered firewood, filtered water from the creek. Danny got a fire going while I organised our food and hung the bear bags. We'd both been through the drill 100 times. In grizzly country, you don't mess around. Food goes up in a tree, at least 100 yards from camp. Toothpaste, chapstick, anything with a scent, same deal. We kept our camp clean and our bear spray close. That first night was peaceful. We cooked over the fire some dehydrated chili that tasted better than it had any right to, and watched the stars come out. The Milky Way up there looks different than anywhere else, like someone spilled diamonds across black velvet. Danny pointed out constellations his grandfather had taught him, Orion, Cassiopeia, the Pleiades. "You ever think about how small we are?" he asked, his voice quiet. "Only when I'm out here," I said. "Makes everything else seem kind of ridiculous, doesn't it? The wedding stress, the money stuff. Out here, none of that matters. That's why we come, I said. He nodded, staring into the fire. I'm going to miss this, Mark. After the wedding. Sarah's right that I should probably grow up, but man, I'm going to miss this. You'll still hunt, I told him. Just maybe closer to home. Day trips. You'll bring your kids out here someday. He smiled at that. Yeah, maybe I will. We turned in around 10. The temperature was already dropping hard. I could see my breath inside my tent as I crawled into my sleeping bag. The last thing I remember before falling asleep was the sound of that creek and the wind moving through the pines. Peaceful, safe. I woke to Danny shaking my tent. Mark, wake up. I fumbled for my headlamp, clicked it on. What time is it? 4:30. Come on, man, we need to get moving if we want to catch them at first light. I groaned but started pulling on my layers. Long underwear, fleece, my heavy jacket, wool socks, boots. Everything was cold and stiff. My fingers felt clumsy, but the excitement was building too. Opening morning of a backcountry hunt, there's nothing like it. We forced down some oatmeal and instant coffee, packed our day packs with water, snacks, extra ammunition and our game bags, then started up the ridge behind camp. Danny took point, moving slow and deliberate. We had our headlamps on for the first hour, but as the sky started to lighten, we switched them off and relied on the growing dawn. The forest was waking up around us. Birds calling, squirrels chittering. Once a grouse exploded from the undergrowth right next to me, and I nearly jumped out of my skin. Danny looked back and grinned, putting a finger to his lips. By the time we reached the ridgeline, the sun was just starting to break over the eastern peaks. The whole valley below us was filled with fog, thick and white, and the mountain tops rose out of it like islands. The light turned everything gold and pink. I remember thinking it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. Danny glassed the meadows below us with his binoculars. I did the same. We were looking for elk, listening for bugles. For about 20 minutes there was nothing, just the wind and the distant sound of a raven. Then Danny stiffened. Movement, he whispered. 10 o'clock, far side of the meadow. I swung my binoculars over. At first, I didn't see anything. Then the fog shifted, and I caught it. A herd of elk, maybe 15 cows and a couple of smaller bulls, feeding in the grass at the edge of the tree line. See the 6-point on the left? Danny breathed. I did. A decent bull, not huge but respectable. Legal, ethical. You want him? I asked. Danny hesitated. This was the part of hunting people don't always understand. It's not just about the shot. It's about the decision. The weight of it. Let's see if there's anything bigger, he said finally. We've got time. We backed off the ridge and moved parallel to the meadow, staying in the trees. The wind was in our favour, blowing from them to us. We moved slowly, pausing every few steps to listen. My heart was pounding, not from fear, but from that primal excitement that comes from being a predator, from hunting the way humans have hunted for thousands of years. We'd moved maybe a quarter mile when Danny froze again. I nearly walked into him. He didn't say anything, just pointed. Below us, partially obscured by brush, was another bull, and this one was enormous. A royal, 6 points on each side, with a massive chest and dark neck from the rut. He was bedded down, chewing his cud, completely unaware of us. Danny's hands were shaking as he slowly brought his rifle up. I ranged the distance with my rangefinder, 230 yards, a makeable shot, but not easy. Downhill angle, slight crosswind. You got this, I whispered. Danny steadied himself against a tree, controlled his breathing. I watched through my binoculars, ready to call the shot. The bull stood up, stretched, completely broadside. The shot cracked through the morning like thunder. The bull dropped immediately, clean hit, didn't even take a step. Danny was shaking, this huge grin on his face. Did that just happen? Hell of a shot, man, hell of a shot. We waited 5 minutes, standard practice, then made our way down to the bull. As we got closer, the size of it became clear. This was a mature animal, probably 8 or 9 years old, maybe 700 pounds. Danny's hands were still shaking as he knelt next to it, placed his hand on its shoulder. Thank you, he said quietly. It's what his grandfather had taught him. Always thank the animal. We took some photos, then got to work. Field dressing an elk that size is brutal work. Hot, messy, exhausting. We worked for 2 hours, removing the internal organs, quartering the meat, loading it into our game bags. My back was screaming by the end. We were both covered in blood up to our elbows. "We need to get this back to camp and hung up," Danny said, looking at the sky. The clouds were building, weather's turning. He was right. The forecast had called for clear skies, but those clouds were dark and moving fast. Mountain weather can change in minutes. We loaded up as much meat as we could carry, maybe 150 pounds between us, and started back toward camp. It was slow going. The weight made every step deliberate. We had to stop every 15 minutes to rest. By the time we were halfway back, the temperature had dropped at least 10 degrees. The wind was picking up, and I could smell moisture in the air. "Snow?" Danny asked. "Maybe. Let's just get this to camp." We made it back around 2 in the afternoon, hung the meat bags from a tree branch, built up the fire, changed into dry clothes. The temperature was still dropping. Those dark clouds had completely covered the sky now, turning everything grey and oppressive. "We'll rest a bit, then head back for another load," Danny said. "If we hustle, we can get it all out before dark." I didn't like it. Something felt off. The weather maybe, or just exhaustion. But I didn't argue. We gave ourselves an hour, forced down some food, then headed back out. The wind was really howling now, bending the tops of the trees. And it was cold. Bitter cold. I'd gone from sweating under my pack to shivering in what felt like minutes. We reached the elk around 4. The light was already fading. Those storm clouds had turned afternoon into dusk. We loaded up the remaining quarters, the back straps, the tenderloins, every choice piece. We were both staggering under the weight. "This is the last trip," Danny grunted. "I don't care if we leave the rib meat, this is it." That's when the snow started. Not a gentle dusting, a full blizzard, thick, wet flakes that stuck to everything. Visibility dropped to maybe 20 feet in minutes. "We need to move," I said. "Now." We started back, but the trail we'd followed earlier was already disappearing under fresh snow. The wind was disorienting, coming from every direction at once. My face went numb. I couldn't feel my fingers even inside my gloves. We'd been walking maybe 30 minutes when Danny stopped. "Mark, I don't know if we're going the right way." My stomach dropped. "What?" "I can't see any landmarks. Everything looks the same." He was right. The storm had turned the forest into a featureless maze, white in every direction. "We follow the drainage," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "The creek. We find the creek, we find camp." We adjusted our heading, moving downhill toward where the creek should be, but the terrain was deceptive. The snow made every depression look like a stream bed. We'd go 50 yards, realize we were wrong, backtrack. The light was failing fast. Real darkness was maybe 30 minutes away. "We might need to bivvy," Danny said, "just for tonight, wait out the storm." I didn't want to. We had no shelter, no sleeping bags, just the clothes on our backs and the meat on our backs, but he might be right. That's when we heard it. A sound I'd never heard before. Low, guttural. Not quite a growl, not quite a roar, something in between, and it was close. Danny and I both froze. "Bear?" he whispered. "Has to be." We'd been so focused on the weather, we'd completely forgotten about predators. The meat we were carrying, we smelled like a walking buffet. "Bear spray," I said, fumbling for the canister on my chest rig. Danny did the same. The sound came again, closer. Somewhere in the trees to our right, I couldn't see anything through the snow, but I could feel it, something big, something watching. "We need to make noise," Danny said. "Let it know we're human." "Hey bear," I yelled. My voice sounded small and pathetic in the storm. "Hey bear, we're human, get out of here." Nothing. Just that wind and the snow, and my own heartbeat hammering in my ears. "Drop the meat," Danny said. "Leave it and back away." I didn't argue. We shrugged off our packs, let them fall into the snow, started backing up slowly, spray canisters ready. The sound came again, but this time it was different. Not from the right, from the left, and then behind us. "There's more than one," Danny whispered. His voice had gone tight with fear. That's when I saw it. A shape in the snow, moving between the trees. At first, I thought it was a grizzly. The size was right, the colour was right in the dim light. But something was wrong. The proportions were off. The head was too big. The body too long. It stepped into a small clearing maybe 40 feet away. and my brain just stopped working. It was a bear, but it wasn't. The thing stood at least 8 feet tall on all fours. Its fur was matted and dark, almost black, but with these patches of bare skin that looked diseased. Wrong. The head was massive, wider than any grizzly I'd ever seen, with a short snout and these small, deep-set eyes that reflected our headlamp beams like coins. But it was the proportions that made my skin crawl. The front legs were too long, almost grotesquely long, with huge splayed paws that looked more like hands. The back legs were shorter, bent at an angle that seemed painful. And the spine curved upward in this awful hump that made the whole thing look deformed. It opened its mouth and I saw teeth, too many teeth, rows of them, like a shark. "What the hell is that?" Danny's voice was barely a whisper. The thing made that sound again, that raw growl, and I felt it in my chest like a bass drum. "Run," I said. We ran. I don't know how long we ran. Time stopped meaning anything. We crashed through brush, slipped on rocks hidden under snow, branches tearing at our faces. Behind us, I could hear it following. Not running. It didn't need to run. Just moving at this steady, inexorable pace. Crashing through undergrowth, like it weighed as much as a truck. Danny was ahead of me, younger, faster. I was trying to keep up, my lungs screaming, my legs burning. "There," Danny shouted. "The creek." I saw it. Or heard it, really. The rush of water. We burst out of the trees onto the creek bank. The water was high and fast, maybe 15 feet across. Too deep and cold to cross safely. "We have to try," Danny said. He plunged in before I could stop him. The current hit him immediately, nearly swept him off his feet. He fought across, the water up to his chest, then hauled himself onto the opposite bank. I was about to follow when the thing burst out of the trees behind me. Up close, it was worse. So much worse. The smell hit me first, rot and musk and something chemical, like burning plastic. It moved wrong, its joints bending at angles that shouldn't be possible. And the sound it made. Not anger, but something else. Hunger, maybe. Or curiosity. I raised my bear spray and fired. The orange cloud hit it full in the face. It should have stopped it, should have sent it running. That stuff will drop a grizzly in its tracks. The thing didn't even flinch. It lunged forward and I dove into the creek. The coal was like knives. Instant, total, overwhelming. The current grabbed me, pulled me under. I couldn't breathe, couldn't see. My pack was gone. My spray was gone. I was drowning. My hand hit a rock. I grabbed it, pulled myself to the surface, gasped. The current was dragging me downstream, away from where Danny had crossed. I fought towards the opposite bank, got my hands on some roots, dragged myself out. I lay there in the snow, coughing water, everything numb. Somewhere upstream, I could hear Danny yelling my name. "Mark, Mark, where are you?" "Here." My voice was a croak. "I'm here." I heard him crashing through the brush, coming toward me. Then I heard something else. That roar. On this side of the creek. "Danny, run!" I screamed. I forced myself up, stumbled toward his voice. The forest was almost completely dark now. Just the weak beam of my headlamp cutting through the snow. I couldn't see 10 feet in front of me. "Mark, I can..." Danny's voice cut off. Not mid-word. Mid-sound. Like someone had flipped a switch. "Danny?" I stopped running. My heart was trying to punch through my ribs. "Danny! Answer me!" Nothing. "Danny!" I moved toward where I'd heard his voice. Every step felt like walking toward my own execution. The snow was falling so thick I could barely breathe. My clothes were starting to freeze on my body. Then I saw the headlamp. Danny's headlamp, lying in the snow, still on, pointing at the base of a tree. "Danny?" My voice had gone small. I took another step. My light swept across something dark on the snow. For a second, my brain tried to make it into a shadow. A trick of the light. But it wasn't. It was blood, a lot of blood, a trail of it leading off into the darkness. And drag marks in the snow. No, 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 no. I followed the trail, my rifle up, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold it. The trail led about 50 feet into a thick stand of pine. That's where I found him. Danny was lying on his back at the base of a tree. His rifle was still slung across his chest. His eyes were open. For one insane second, I thought he was okay. Just resting. But then I saw his jacket, torn open from collar to waist. The snow beneath him was black with blood. "Danny?" I fell to my knees beside him, pressed my hands to his chest, trying to stop the bleeding, but there was too much. It was everywhere. My hands were hot with it. His eyes moved to me. He tried to say something, but only blood came out. "Stay with me," I was saying, over and over. Stay with me, please, Danny. Stay with me." But his eyes were already glazing over, the light going out of them. I watched it happen. Watched my best friend leave. I don't know how long I knelt there. Could have been seconds. Could have been an hour. The cold didn't matter anymore. The storm didn't matter. Nothing mattered. Then I heard it again. That sound. Closer. My body moved before my brain could catch up. I grabbed Danny's rifle. Mine was lost somewhere in the creek, and ran. Just blind, animal panic. I crashed through the forest in total darkness. No light, no direction, just running. I fell, got up, fell again. My face hit a branch and I felt something break in my nose, hot blood mixing with the cold on my face. Got up, kept running. I don't remember finding the camp. One second I was running, the next I was standing in our clearing, staring at our tents, the cold remains of our fire. My hands were still covered in Danny's blood. I fumbled for my fire kit, got my lighter out. My hands were shaking so badly it took 6 tries to get it lit. I set fire to some pine needles, fed in twigs, then bigger branches. The flames grew, heat, light, safety. I dragged both our sleeping bags out of the tents, wrapped them around myself, fed more wood to the fire, Danny's firewood, the pile he'd made yesterday when everything was normal and we were happy. I loaded Danny's rifle, chambered a round, set it across my lap, fed more wood to the fire. That's how I spent the night, feeding the fire, watching the darkness, listening for that sound. Or it never came. When dawn broke, the storm had passed. The world was white and silent and beautiful in a way that made me want to vomit. I packed what I could carry. Danny's rifle, some food, the water filter. I left everything else. The tents, the gear, the meat we'd worked so hard for. I found the creek by luck more than skill. Followed it downstream, kept moving. My feet were numb. I think I had frostbite, but I couldn't stop. I walked all day, all night, didn't sleep. Somewhere late on the second day, I hit the trail we'd hiked in on, followed it to the truck, Danny's truck, the one he was supposed to drive home, the one where we were supposed to laugh about the hunt and plan the next one. My phone had service at the trailhead. I called 911, told them there'd been an animal attack, gave them the coordinates as best I could remember. Then I sat in the truck and waited. The sheriff arrived first, then search and rescue, then Forest Service. I told them everything, exactly what happened. They wrote it all down. They found Danny's body 3 days later. What was left of it? The official report called it a grisly attack, tragic accident, wrong place, wrong time. They said he'd bled out from massive trauma to his chest and abdomen. Quick, probably didn't suffer long. They're wrong about it being quick. I know. I was there. I saw his eyes. They never found the animal responsible. They put out warnings. Closed that section of the forest for 2 weeks, set some traps, got nothing. I tried to tell them about what I saw, the proportions that were wrong, the teeth, the way it moved. They nodded politely, wrote it down. One of the rangers even said something about stress and shock affecting perception in traumatic situations. Maybe he's right. Maybe my brain invented the details to cope with what I saw. But I don't think so. I went to Danny's funeral. Open casket. Even though I'd seen what was done to him. They'd cleaned him up, made him look peaceful, like he was sleeping. Sarah stood next to the casket in her black dress, the dress she should have been wearing to their wedding. She looked at me during the service, really looked at me, and I knew she was wondering why it was Danny in that box and not me, why I got to come home. I've been wondering the same thing every day since. I sold my rifles 2 weeks after the funeral, all my gear. I told my family I'm done hunting. They understand, trauma, grief, all that. They think time will heal it, that eventually I'll be ready to go back out there. They're wrong. Because 3 nights ago, I got a call from a number I didn't recognise. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. There was breathing on the other end. Just breathing. For maybe 10 seconds. Then that sound, that raw growl, the one from the forest, the one that shouldn't exist. Then the line went dead. I checked the number. It was from Montana, from the Missoula area code. I've got all my doors locked now. All my windows. I bought a shotgun, told myself it's just for home defense. I sleep with it next to my bed. I don't sleep much. Because I keep thinking about something the sheriff said when they found Danny. Something I didn't understand at the time. He said the tracks around Danny's body were strange, too big for a grizzly, and the claw marks on the trees nearby, they were 8 feet up. He'd never seen a bear mark that high. He said it almost looked like something had been standing on 2 legs. I didn't tell him that when I saw it, standing over Danny. That's exactly what it was doing. Standing. Like it was trying to figure out what we were, what we tasted like, if there were more of us. I don't know what I saw in those mountains. The rational part of my brain says it was a grizzly. Big one, aggressive, wrong place, wrong time, just an animal doing what animals do. But the part of me that was there, the part that smelled it and heard it and watched it move, knows different. There are things in those mountains that aren't supposed to exist. Things that maybe used to exist a long time ago when the world was different, or things that evolved in places we've never found, in caves deep enough that no one's ever mapped them. I don't know. I'll probably never know. What I do know is that Danny's wedding should have been next month, December 14th. I was supposed to be his best man. I was supposed to give a speech about all our hunts together, all the stupid things we'd done, how I'd never met a better man or a better friend. Instead, I'll visit his grave, put some flowers there, probably whiskey too. Danny liked whiskey. And I'll remember that last night at camp, before everything went wrong. How he looked at those stars and said he'd miss this. How young and happy he looked in the firelight. How he talked about bringing his kids out here someday, teaching them what his grandfather taught him. He'll never get that chance. Because of me, because I suggested that hunt, that location, because I couldn't keep him safe. I'm telling you this story because someone needs to know the truth, not the version in the report, the real version. And because if you're thinking about hunting in the Bitterroot Wilderness, in that section southwest of Missoula, maybe reconsider, find somewhere else, somewhere safer. Because there are things out there that don't follow the rules, things that are bigger and stronger and stranger than anything in the guidebooks. Things that sound like bears but aren't. Things that hunt the hunters. And if you do go up there, if you ignore this warning, just promise me one thing. Don't go alone. Don't trust the weather. Don't assume you're at the top of the food chain. And if you hear that sound, that roar that's not quite a roar, don't try to fight it. Don't try to make sense of it. Run. Run like Danny should have run. Like we both should have run the second we heard it. Maybe that wouldn't have saved him, but maybe it would have. I'll never know. What I do know is I hear that sound every night now, sometimes in dreams, sometimes when I'm awake. It's always the same, that low, guttural, raw growl, the sound of something that shouldn't exist, the sound of something that killed my best friend and let me walk away. And I don't know which is worse, the fact that I survived or the fact that it let me. Because I think it wanted me to tell this story. I think it wanted someone to know it's out there, to spread the fear, to keep people wondering, to make them look over their shoulders when they're hiking alone, to make them question every sound in the dark forest. If that's true, then I guess it won. Here I am, telling you, warning you, making you afraid. I haven't been back to Montana. I don't know if I ever will be. Sarah moved away. California, I think. Somewhere far from mountains and forests and memories. I don't blame her. Sometimes I think about burning Danny's rifle, the one I carried out. It's in my closet now. I can't look at it, can't touch it, but I can't get rid of it either. It belonged to his grandfather. It means something. Or maybe I keep it because it's proof that Danny existed, that he was real, that this all really happened and I didn't just lose my mind. I don't know anymore. What I know is this. I'll never hunt alone in those mountains again. I'll never hunt anywhere again. Because every shadow looks wrong now. Every sound could be that sound. Every moment in the forest feels like being watched, being stalked, being chosen. Danny used to say the mountains were the last real place, the last place you could be truly alive. He was wrong. The mountains are where things go to die, where the old rules don't apply, where something ancient and terrible still lives in the dark spaces between the trees. And I'm one of the lucky ones. I got to leave. Danny's still there, part of him anyway, the part that thing didn't eat, the part they found and buried, the part Sarah cries over, the part that should be getting married next month. He's still there. And so is it, waiting for the next hunter who thinks they're alone, the next one who trusts the weather forecast and their bear spray and their rifle, the next one who doesn't know what's really out there. Maybe that'll be you. I hope not. But if it is, if you find yourself in those mountains with something moving wrong in the shadows, if you hear that sound that makes your bones vibrate, remember this story, remember Danny, and run, just run, because some things aren't meant to be hunted. Some things do the hunting, and some mountains keep what they kill.